All right. So let's talk about different hubs, different parts of the industry, right? So every time a startup raises a round, so we usually see people pointing to the founder or even the VC, right? But almost never to the regional incubator, or the national bank that open up the first doors, right? Or put the first deck to the founder. So because the narrative, innovation is always riding around London, Barcelona, Milan, the main hubs, but most of Europe doesn't look like that. That's true, right? So most of the founders doesn't start here, and most of the infrastructure that actually makes ecosystem work is invisible, right? Underfunded and outside the spotlight. That's the truth. So we have today 3 people here on stage, experts on the field. And we will dig deeper into it. So please, if you want to present yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much. And also thank you to the South Summit team, again, for inviting us to participate here. My name is Jonander Merodio. I'm the General Director of Berriab. Berriab is a private startup accelerator that was born 2015 with the aim of being an alternative private initiative to empower entrepreneurship in the first stages. Okay, so those people who have an idea, first prototype, are starting to enter the market, come to us, we help them grow their business, and we also invest on them through our venture capital partner, which is EASO Ventures. Okay, also, we are based in the north of Spain, San Sebastian, and Bilbao, but we can operate all around Spain, Portugal, and south of France.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Cristina Fanjul. I'm Director of Business Innovation Center Asturias, which is also a region in the north part of Spain, northwestern. And I'm Director of an entity which belong to the public sector, which also belong at Technology Transfer Unit, as incubator, as accelerator, but in reality as a kind of innovation hub for the territory of Asturias. On the other hand, I'm also president of the Business Innovation Center Network in Spain. I was former president of the European Association, and I have also experience in the EU flagship initiative, EIC Accelerator, being jury in Brussels for these really unicorn startups.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the invitation, Edgar and South Summit team. I am Javier Serrano. I'm leading the startup division at Santander Bank within the commercial banking part of the bank. We do not only lend money to startups, that, as you know, it can be quite difficult to lend money to a company that is burning cash, but at some stages that is possible, doing some good structures. But we also like to, and I think that's why we're going to have a really good topic today, and it's really cool, because the bank does not only lend money to startups. We try to connect the whole ecosystem. We're able to sit down on the same table with accelerators, incubators, founders, startups, funds, and the different stakeholders in the ecosystem. And that's what we try to do from the bank. Not only lend money, but help the companies scale, right? So I think this is a really good topic we're going to have today.
On my end, a quick introduction. I'm Edgar Vicente, a founder of EASO Ventures. We are a pre-seed fund investing in top 1% founders in Southern Europe. So we are actually deploying capital out of Fund 2. We have invested in 3 companies so far, and we are the first investors in the early days of best-in-class people here in the region. Okay, so the first question goes to Cristina. So what kind of public innovation center like yours do that private accelerators can't?
Okay, let me start by the beginning. Of course, you speak about, in a sense of competition, but I would like to defend a different opinion, because our missions are different, and we are all part of the same puzzle. Ecosystems are based in multiplying agents which are also very liquid, because at the moment, for example, corporates are a truly agent for a startup, but who bet some years ago that there was not really planified. So I think when speaking about public sector, we need to take account that our measure for success, our impact is based on regional development. So I'm an incubator, I'm an accelerator, but really my measurement of the success is the impact I create in the territory. So for example, I would like to propose to my region some very good and healthy startups who create really employment, high qualified employment, which is difficult to access to the market labor. I also would like to provide some diversification of the sector. For example, Asturias is a really industry-root region, which is still proud of its industry region, but who also needs some parts of diversification in order to succeed for the challenges of the future. On the other hand, I think the public sector is truly an agent when companies are still not investable. So who cares about these entrepreneurs? Who cares about their projects when their projects are not investable? We are the ones that would like to provide this support. And I would like also to say that in parallel with the economic development, we also act as a kind of social gap agent. I mean, entrepreneurship is everything about relationships. It's about alliances. It's about to find the best actors in order to propose and to push your project. If you have not born in an ecosystem where provides you naturally, you need to really bet on the public support services in order to provide you, in order to try to scale the project. So in a way, I would like to say that our portfolio is also a mission in parallel with the private accelerator, of course, diversification, but our investors are the civil society, wanting to have a healthy territory where develop economic promotion, providing a future for the children, for the young people, and for all the things and all the talent that would like to say. So, yeah, we better speak about collaboration instead of competition because we are all part of the same ecosystem.
100% agreed. There is this cooperation between private accelerators and public entities. Fully agreed. And second question goes to John. Okay, so basically, how does a regional program like Very Up compete with the big hubs, right? Mm-hmm. And is the Basque Country model generally replicable elsewhere or not?
There is a very Basque phrase that Athletic Club use that we are unique in the world. So it's a bit different, but I would say, we are, it's true that we are in the Basque Country, but the reality is that we have startups all around Spain. Okay, so we don't limit ourselves in territory-wise. Okay, this is the part of being private that we can consider other places to invest and to accelerate startups. I would like to also deep into, it's true that our programs are based in the Basque Country. Why? Because as I said before, we were born in 2015 to be an alternative in the Basque Country because there was a reflection. We are a very rich territory in terms of economies, knowledge, industrialization, energy. We have very important ports, and we have a very good ecosystem for market access for startups in early stage, but that ecosystem had to be built. Okay, it's true that there was a lot of support to the entrepreneurship from the public side from many years ago, but there was no a private entity that was giving that early stage figures and then giving it to a middle long-term relationship. Okay, so that was our role. About the Basque Country ecosystem, we are very lucky because we have we manage our own taxes, right? And that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of having other kind of public grants, different tax benefits that maybe other regions might take longer to adapt it because they depend more on the national government. And also, I think the Basque ecosystem is changing quite a lot because now so many people are coming that our culture has to be changed because of a need, right? We Basque people are usually very close to what's coming from the outside, and now because of a need, I would say we are changing our minds, right? So We are well prepared, but I think a very interesting future is coming.
Super. And Javier, there is a lot of debate about how banks can really bring value to companies, to startups in the ecosystem. So I would like to ask you, what can you really bring to those companies through the bank, of course?
If I'm allowed, I'm going to talk from a bank perspective, not just from Santander, okay? Because I think that different financial institutions in Spain, we have really good programs, each of us. We cover most of the scope, okay? So I was saying in my intro, we do not only sit down on the same table with the startups. Banks have huge amounts of customers, and those customers are funds, are startups, are corporates, are SMEs, are all the key players on the ecosystem. That's the first thing, okay? We're able to talk to everyone. The second one is that many players in the ecosystem just focus on one stage of the company, right? Accelerators, incubators helps company start. Funds helps them grow in different stages, right? But we at the bank, most of the banks, but mainly Santander in Spain, we're able to cover all the stages from a company, from seed to growth. Our perspective is to help companies grow. So our services, our products are mainly devoted to that, right? So that's the second thing, that we cover all the stages and not just one stage. For a startup, that's good because they always have the same contact point at the bank, right? So that's a good point. And also when we talk to our customers, to our startups, and we tell them what are your needs, what are your pains, how we can help you. Of course, it's lending money, but that is not the key point, the key pain of the startups. They need customers. They need customers because startups scale not on grants, but on customers. Yeah. And they see us as the place where they can have a lot of leads for their companies, right? So we try not only to lend money, but also to get them in touch with customers. Here is Daniel, is a colleague of mine, and he's leading the FinTech Station area, which is in charge of the bank, in the bank, of finding those startups that can be useful for the bank, and we can incorporate inside the bank their technologies. So we are also like startups see us as a sandbox for the projects in order to develop their companies.
No, that's completely true. In fact, we at Enzo, we have invested in a couple of companies that also receive money from institutional banks, right? And especially in the very early stages, that opens like many doors, commercially speaking, because it gives like serious, I would say, face to potential clients, right? If there is a bank behind them. Yeah. So it's really important in these first steps of the company, commercially speaking, right?
Yeah, but there are some limits that we cannot cover. From the bank cannot replace the venture capital. We are a really regulated system. In early stages, it's not that we don't want to lend money, it's that we can lend money because of our capital requirements, right? So that we need to have those things really clear and add value to startups with different things, right?
Holistically, makes sense.
Also, I would like to point out that it's quite interesting, and I think this is why we are here in this table, because it's crucial to be, all of us, very close to each other, right? And maybe the bank cannot cover the venture capital. This is maybe where Enzo can enter, and they cannot enter in those zero phase where the public entities can enter, or we can also have that access to the market or develop those first prototypes. And I think this is why it's crucial for all of us to leave our egos out and be a bit closer and always work for the good path of our of our companies, right?
Agreed. So one question, digging deeper into the field, what actually makes an ecosystem fail, in your own opinion? who want to start?
Oh my God, this is a good point, but I would like to turn upside down. Who puts the measure on the failure of an ecosystem? What means failure of the ecosystem in general? If in general we have different purposes, different goals. I would like to really take a case on the companies which maybe are not unicorns, because of course I use purposely this in my introduction, but brings some diversification and brings richness to the ecosystem. So what I mean with the public support is that we are more or less the more neutral ecosystem orchestrators. If we really we really wait that natural processes occur, sometimes there are some regions who are emerging, who are still in development, and those natural processes need to be fueled. And I think the public sector is the more neutral agent, player that can bring this to the table. This does not mean that the public sector does not have indicators or the measure of success, but in reality, we need to know that here in the South Summit, this is a kind of performing stage where you can see all of people thriving and success. But in reality, the impact that we'll need to have in the territories is totally different from the ones we have here. And I think the public sector is more and better positioned to be here on the orchestrator. On the other hand, I also make autocriticisms. We are not here to support some initiatives that are not able to survive in the future or who are not able to develop. So we are not a kind of artificial leverage for some projects. We need to really acquire this sense of consistency in identification and to put the public resources, which are all our resources, in those companies able to really thrive or able to have at least the minimum aspect and items for the success. But it's true that my question was who cares for this early stage individual? Who cares for the researchers? We made a lot of investment in science, in applied science, and who cares about the transformation of this applied science into really healthy and good technology-based company? It's only the public sector who really can have this. But on the other hand, I'm also really in favor of some indicators who really, the evaluation of the public policies, I think it's important in order to really provide to the society all the sense of success of the ecosystem. But if the only measure is the number of unicorns we have in the territory, then of course there's a lot of territories who will never arrive to this.
I would say when ecosystem fail, when there is no one who's willing to make an ecosystem, right? And when we talk about making an ecosystem is what I was saying before, when the alignment of the banks, public entities, VCs, corporates, SMEs are not at least a bit aligned, or they crush each other, right? So I think that's a big issue. I think here we are seeing a big difference or a big development in the public entities. I think we also need to congratulate that, because each time it's being more and more close to the reality of the companies, SMEs. I think we have many initiatives that are making themselves be more, accessible to somehow. And I think at least we could consider that in Spain we are in a good culture of making good ecosystems, because we have great examples in all around Spain, I would say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, talent is well distributed through the whole territories. Opportunities aren't. So the ecosystems fail when opportunities are not created. And that means a lack of talent, a lack of corporates where startups can sell their products, or lack of customers, of capital. When the universities, accelerator, banks, funds, they work in silos. And I think that, as you were saying, Christina, the public sector has to be the one orchestrating all the players in the ecosystem. And we have really good examples here in Spain, as Madrid, Valencia, where the Basque Country, for example, where the public sector is the one leading different initiatives and setting everyone on the same table, and that means that opportunities are equal for everyone, right? And are accessible for.
Fully aligned, in my own opinion, apart from all those things that you commented, I'm super agreed on that. I think that the main trigger for, ecosystem to succeed is that we need that our companies become global since minute one. We need this international mindset since the very beginning, right? Because, that drives like economic returns, right? And all the angels, all the first employees from those companies can reinvest again into the ecosystem, right? And that push up, the ecosystem itself a lot. So I think that, in my own opinion, it's the main trigger, apart from all those things, right? But we need to have this international mindset, right? Mm-hmm. That sometimes it's really tough to find here in Spain, but I think it's something needed, and little by little we are getting out there.
But it's not only for startups, but also for SMEs and corporates in Spain. I mean, our problem in Spain and in Europe is our scale. So we need bigger companies, we need bigger enterprises, we need more scale to be able to have competitiveness in the international market. So it's for the whole, it's not just for the startups ecosystem, but for the whole businesses ecosystem.
Yeah, I would like also to add that the challenge is still very big, even for a territory, even for a nation, even for a country. We are a bloc. The EU bloc needs to reinvent itself and try to find some elements that make this EU continent, some bet for the future. When I take part in this EU flagship initiative, which is the accelerator, which I mean it's the champion league of the startup, we give up to 15 million euros. What I see is not the level of innovation, it's not the technology behind the company, it's the level of ambition, it's how to grow a business, international business plan, it's the grow ambition to growth. And I think we really need to cooperate instead on competing, because the challenge is so big. We are not enemies, our enemies in a sense are outside. We need to really create those synergies, those alliances, a single market with a unique regulation, especially for startups. It's very hard to go country by country trying to adopt or incorporate regulations. So I think there's still a lot of things to do, and I truly agree that there are more approaches from the regulation side, for the market side, from a lot of things to do.
100%. And one last question, because we are running out of time. If you had to name one non-obvious European region that's going to surprise everyone in the next few years, what would it be?
For John, it's easy.
Okay.
For you too.
Okay. And then you will guess it.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay, no, I will say, of course, I will say Asturias. But Asturias as a representing region for the future. You mentioned most of people in Europe doesn't live in London, doesn't live in Paris, or even in Germany, some big cities of Germany. They live in some medium average urban, and as you say, the talent is democratized. There are talent everywhere. So we really need to help this emerging ecosystem to thrive, to really find their own voice, to really find the value proposition they have against all these competing ecosystem, and really the ecosystem needs to provide generosity. I mean, the sense of discovery when you go to emerging region, which is really outside of these performing stages, is really and truly successful, because you find some technology-based companies, some researchers making a lot of magnificent discoveries, and the sense of generosity needs to be present.
Mm-hmm. Let me not close it to a region, but to the north of Spain, I would say, because there is also a need. We are coming from so many SMEs, so many companies that are owned by families, that they have a very big issue on who's going to be leading those companies, and there is a need of diversifying those entities, those companies, or those groups, right? So the quality of life that we have in the north of Spain, I think it makes a difference. But not only that, we have a lot of knowledge in industry, in energy, in mobility, ports, as I was saying before. Every time more venture capitals are appearing, banks are, making themselves adapt to the new realities, and I think north of Spain is going to be quite attractive, from Galicia to Asturias, Basque Country, obviously, and I don't know, I wouldn't close it to a region.
I totally agree with you. I was going to say Basque Country, Asturias, and Galicia. And why? Those places in Spain are really industrial-based, with a very industrial-based culture implemented, right? And in Europe, we are good. We're not good at software. We're good at software, and we have really good companies, but we are good at building hardware. And those regions in Europe, mainly in Spain, that we're really good at industrial components and the hardware. I think those companies that adapt to the new technologies is going to make the northern region of Spain take off. It's already taking off. We're seeing every day really good projects in Spain with a lot of hardware, a lot of deep tech that adds a lot of value. And it's mainly the pole where this is happening. Of course, the ecosystem in Catalonia and Madrid, I'm not from the north, well, I'm from Zaragoza, but not from the northern region of Spain. But Madrid, Barcelona copes like about 65-70% of the total ecosystem. But the next industrial-based hardware startups are racing in the northern of Spain.
I would say that Southern Europe overall, it's going to be the next thing between Europe. I've seen like a super interesting mindset shift in this next generation of entrepreneurs popping up from here, and the culture has completely changed, right? Between Southern Europe, I see a very interesting hub in Milan, right, north of Italy. They will catch up really soon with Spain. They are growing a lot. They're growing insanely. They have great taxes. They are attracting a lot of talent, a lot of wealthy people. They have a very interesting hub. So in my own opinion, Italy is going to catch up really, really soon with Spain, and it's the next thing, in my opinion, I have to say.
Okay, I have one call-up action for you. In case you would like to taste some of the emerging ecosystem, we have a soft landing programs in July for those companies coming from abroad and trying to test everything, which is of course Asturias, but it's northern related. So if you like to taste, apply for the soft landing Asturias program.
Super.